Right, so in this video, I'm going to talk about a mistake that I was making probably for at least a decade of my life. Something that I wasn't even aware of until really not that long ago. That was just absolutely tanking my, sounds a bit cringe, but social status. Just the way that I was coming across to other people. Specifically, me coming across as like a low status person who I would say tolerates bad behavior from other people. So let me get into this. So a not too distant example of this, which was really eye-opening for me, was basically my job at the moment. I work in a different part of the country, a different part of the UK, for half of the week. So I stay in this hotel. I've been staying in this hotel for like about a year, for about half the week. And I won't give too much away just out of respect for them. But there was a situation where I'd gone off to work, I'd gone off to my office. I came back to my room after work. I'm literally about to go to bed. It's like 11 p.m. at this point. And I realized an item of mine has been, well, it's no longer in my room. It's missing. Basically, it's basically one of these like, you know how after you get braces, you get those like little clear plastic retainers. And they're so expensive for what they are because they're like molded to your teeth. So we're talking hundreds of pounds. And basically one of the cleaners has come into my room. I think I had it in like this little plastic cup because you have like these little cleaning tablets. One of the cleaners has come into my room and just like not even seen it and just thrown it away. That's what I'm assuming happened anyway. And you know, I asked to speak to the manager. I set up a little meeting with the manager and basically say like, this is what's happened, you know. Is there any way I can kind of be compensated for it? Or at least that's what I should have said from the start. Because this entire situation right from the beginning was very uncomfortable for me. Very uncomfortable. Because I don't like dealing with things like this. Like at the time I was just like, I don't need the stress of this. But obviously, if I'm expecting compensation in the hundreds of pounds for this item, that requires me to be quite direct with these people and almost kind of like argue my case. Like there's a certain expectation on me. And I haven't been naturally good at that stuff for a while. I didn't really learn this. I didn't learn to be like assertive or direct with people when I was a kid. It's something I'm having to learn now. So yeah, basically, I get my dad to just like feed me all of these lines for what to say to the manager when I have this meeting. And yeah, to kind of cut a long story short, over the course of a few weeks, we kind of go back and forth. My dad's just giving me like these emails to write out. When I meet with the manager for the first time, everything's nice and I'm kind of like, these things happen, these things happen. But then over the course of the next few weeks, my dad's giving me, drafting up all these emails and we're sending them in my name. And yeah, things kind of get a bit ugly. And this manager's getting annoyed and she's basically insinuating that I never even took these retainers to the hotel anyway. Maybe I'm just trying to scam them out of money and they're going to give me like some meal tokens or whatever in the range of about £10, which is nowhere near what I paid for these retainers. I paid like £300. And yeah, what I found very interesting about this whole thing was what must she have been thinking? I think it must have been very obvious to her that I wasn't the one sending these emails. Because in these emails, they would be very direct, very almost like a little bit confrontational, because that's what my dad can be like. My dad's a good guy, but he does have that side to him when he wants something, you know. But in the hotel, because I was staying in this hotel throughout the whole thing, it was awkward as fuck. In the hotel, I'd see her at the reception and she'd try and talk to me about this. She'd be like, we can't give you anything more than what we're offering, like, oh, Nothing's gonna amount to it. And I would just be like so apologetic. I would almost act like a little bit submissive. My natural instinct, without even thinking, was to just say, "Oh no, I'm really sorry, it's just one of those things, like, I'm really sorry, but this is what it's come to," and couldn't be further from how I was coming across in those emails that my dad had given me. And it was just like reading through these emails, that's kind of when it started to click for me, like, you know what, like, why am I apologizing when I'm not even in the wrong? Why am I apologizing when they have done this to me, when they're in the wrong, and I'm perfectly within my rights to complain about something which has cost me hundreds of pounds worth of loss? Why is like my natural instinct to be a bit submissive, to try and avoid the conflict? Why am I just apologizing for existing? And what does that say about me? Am I broadcasting to the world that people can just walk all over me? That I'm not willing to stand up for myself, even when something like seriously wrong has been done to me, and I'm perfectly within my rights to, defend myself? It's crazy. Just that question came up reading these emails from my dad, and I was like, how have I been, I'm his son. How am I so different to him? Where has he developed this side of himself from? And why have I skipped out on it? So this is something I've really been trying to work on, because it was like all of the little puzzle pieces started coming together after that. And I kind of realized, shit, like, how long has this been going on for? There's situations at work where, people will ask me to do things and I'll know right from the start, like, this is too much work for me. This is too much responsibility. And I'll just kind of like nod my head and be like, yeah, it's fine, it's fine. I'm not like being direct. I'm not getting like my needs across or managing expectations. And then when things inevitably go wrong, it's like, again, I'm just like really apologetic. I put myself in that situation. Or there's just times where, like minor inconveniences for things, or, when someone else has put me in a difficult situation, I'm the one apologizing. I'm apologizing for things that I haven't even done. And I'll tell you what, I know where this comes from. And I think this will be really common for a lot of people. This comes from my fear of confrontation, which sounds a little bit basic, but where that fear of confrontation comes from is, and this is me being very honest, there have been times in my life where I felt powerless, and I've let other people kind of walk all over me or take advantage of me, particularly when I was in school, when I was getting bullied. I have like this deep-rooted guilt in me about like letting that happen to me and kind of feeling powerless to stop it. And I think deep down, this is something I'm not even really consciously aware of. This is just something that exists unconsciously in my body. Deep down, I never want to feel like that again. And by getting into confrontation, I think deep down I know that, there's a chance that I could be made to feel powerless like that again. I could be faced with the uncomfortable reality that, maybe I haven't changed as much as I would like, and deep down maybe I am still this like kid who's just scared of getting bullied. So I think what I've done, and what a lot of other people will do without realizing, is they will create this like set of defense mechanisms, which is just like staying on everyone's good side, avoiding confrontation at all costs, saying yes to things you can't do, apologizing for everything, trying to get people on your side, because as long as they're not angry with you, as long as you have their approval, they're not going to make you feel that bad again. They're not going to make you feel powerless or take away control of the situation from you. That's the root of a lot of my approval-seeking behaviors that I don't really like about myself. Why as much as I get out there and I identify as a confident person, and I have like a very strong set of social skills. I'm pretty socially fearless in a lot of ways. I still have this lingering thing from when I was younger of like almost needing to be liked by everyone, trying to win people's approval who I don't actually care about, you know? Fucking deep topic, man. I can honestly just sit here and talk for like the next hour about it, but I'm going to give you some strategies that I've used to kind of rebuild my self-image, because I've made a lot of progress with this just in like the last 6 months. And it's a long road, but these, we'll call them 3 actions. These will help. So first of all, the first one is situations where, I'll give a few examples, but there are going to be situations in life where people get things wrong, people make mistakes, kind of like this hotel thing, but at the end of the day, it puts you in a bad situation. And in certain situations, the person doing it who's made the mistake, they might be nice. You know, you might think they're a good person, you know, and you might kind of want to go a bit easy on them, which is fine. But if you do not correct that mistake, or if you don't inform them for whatever reason because you don't want to make them feel bad, or you think it's too much hassle, if you don't correct that mistake and try and like put something in motion to fix it, then that is just going to degrade your sense of self-worth. Deep down, you're going to be thinking, I'm someone who just lets these things happen to me, and I don't put my hands up and do anything about it. And I'm not even talking about anything major, like this hotel incident. A good example that I always tell people is, let's say you went to a restaurant and you wait ages for your food to come out. When it comes out, the order's wrong. And the waiter goes off and you're kind of just sitting with this plate of food that you didn't order in front of you. It might be really good. You know, it might be a nice steak. But if you ordered a burger, you know, they've got it wrong. And there's times in my life where I would have thought like, you know, this steak looks pretty good, I'll just order it. No, sorry, I'll just eat it. But you need to correct these small things. Like, it's not too much hassle. You're perfectly within your rights to correct that mistake. You need to speak up in situations like that, because they're like really good opportunities for rebuilding your sense of self-worth and building this assertiveness. That's number 1. Number 2 is, don't over-explain yourself. Don't over-explain your decisions. This is another really common low-status behavior. Again, we'll go back to that example of work. Say someone comes over to you and they're like, right, Tom, can you do this, 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 and this? You know, I need this done. You're perfectly within your rights to say no to that. You know, if you really can't do it, ideally you would say no. But then what we'll end up doing is we'll feel this need to like over-explain ourselves, to almost kind of like soften the blow. We believe that just saying no in itself isn't enough of an excuse. Maybe in certain situations it might not be. But if what I would do is I would kind of start rambling like, oh, I'm really sorry, you know, I have this is going on. I'm just really sorry, like over-explaining myself, apologizing for something, which again, I'm perfectly within my rights to not have an excuse for. Someone hits you up and says, do you want to come to this party, or do you want to come hang out? So many people who, it happens with like a lot of introverted people, like I'm like this. If we don't want to do it, we'll start coming up with excuses like, oh, I've got a headache, man, I'm really sorry. I'm not feeling well, or I'm tired, or whatever. Like, you don't need to say anything. I was just watching a YouTube video about this. You don't need to make an excuse for yourself in that situation. Your answer in itself should be satisfactory. We're not going to come to every single social invite. Sometimes we're just not those kinds of people. We don't really like that, and people need to know one way or another. You could just say it's not my thing, and that is a perfectly acceptable answer. Number 3, eliminate these softening words from your vocabulary. What do I mean by softening words? Kind of the opposite of what my dad was doing in those emails. My dad in those emails, he came across so assertive, but a lot of that just came down to the words he wasn't using. There was no maybe or I think or, what do you think about? Hold on, let me look up more softening words. Hold on, little video break. What are some softening words we use that make us come across more low status? So, softening words and phrases. Sorry to bother you, or, sorry if you haven't got enough time, or sorry if you're in the middle of something. I just wanted to ask, or I was wondering, you know what I mean? Like, you probably get the gist by now, but little things like that, which make our language come across as like more uncertain, more submissive, as if we're inconveniencing people by asking things that, again, we're perfectly within our rights to ask. I do this at work because I in my job I've had to email like lots of people, not just inside my organization, maybe people I don't know, but outside the organization. And I always just make these emails just way too long because I'm filling them up with all these words like, hi, like, or I'm sorry if in the middle of something, or hi, I was just wondering. That is unnecessary. Like, there's politeness, there's being polite, which is fair enough. But I look at the way these people respond to me by email, and you could perceive them as like a little bit like short, a little bit like, as in like a little bit impatient or short-tempered. But really they're just being direct with their words. A lot of these people email me back. I've sent them like 2-3 paragraphs. They email me back with like 2 lines. And they just tell me exactly what they need, or they just give me their concise response in as few words as possible. I can choose to look at that as something, I can choose to be offended by that, or I can look at this as just completely neutral. I don't know, I can't look at someone's facial expressions over a communication channel like email. So really I'm just projecting meaning onto that. I'm projecting like my negative view onto that situation, when really they're just being concise, they're being direct. So try and eliminate those softening words and phrases from your vocabulary that actually kind of weaken your position, make you come across more low status. So yeah, those are the 3 strategies I've been using. Honestly, it's been a slow process, but they actually have transformed the way that I see myself. Like, I look at myself as someone who can stand up for myself in most situations now. And I want the same for you. Have a good one, man. See you soon.